By the way, is there any free trial folks in here today, or anybody just signed up, brand new, just joined us? Looking down, still got a lot of traders in here. Hey, Newman. Trying to send out these trade recaps. Hey, Mort. Yeah, welcome. Mort's visiting from, was referred by Bruce. Bruce Mackey just signed up last week. A good friend of Mort just sent him over, and I think he's in a free trial. Mort, you have my contact info, right? Hey, Carlos. Yeah? Yeah, we should get in touch. I know you had some questions. Anybody? Hi, Newman. Yeah, by the way, anybody new or questions, I'll put out my contact info. You can get me on Skype or on a phone call. And we can talk. Hey, Carlos, Steven. All right, so you should see a YM chart here. Do you guys see the YM chart?
1 second.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. All right, so just real quick, I want to show, we normally show EMD in here and some other things, and I've been Skyping with a lot of traders who have started to look at YM as an alternative to trade. It's $5 a tick. Sometimes, it can be a little jerky. Sometimes it has some good moves. Today it had some decent moves, and I want to show those real quick. So what we do in our pre-market assessment is we look at a couple of things. We look at support and resistance levels. And you can see pre-market here. This is right about when Gary and Rich opened the room over here, 5:55 Pacific. I think all the equities broke up, and you guys actually took some long trades, I think, here right out of the gate, didn't you? I think on Russell, EMD, I know.
Yeah.
As he was running up, I think there was a quick pop up here. And then this is the open of the market right here. 6:30 Pacific would have been somewhere right about in here. You can see YM did kind of a little double top in here, and then very quickly retraced back down into the support level. Now these large chunky dots here are what we call the 12 range guidance dots, and you have to. These are part of the pro package. You see these in the room, and generally speaking, they're going to define whether you're more or less in an uptrend or a downtrend. We used to have a 12-range chart we used to keep tucked over to the side, but in lieu of that now, we just simply put the guidance dots right on the trading chart itself. So right here, very quickly, pre-market, you could have assessed that there was a swing here, obviously a swing here at just north of 810, 11,810. And then very quickly here around the open, within the first 5 minutes or so, you quickly put in a swing right here at this 770. Remember us calling this level out, 760, 770? Anybody remember that level? We were calling it out because it checked it again 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Now the thing, I had this written on, or I had this noted on some other charts, EMD I was trading as well over there. Notice that you had a series of lower highs here. This is coming into the 7 o'clock hour, and if you recall, we did have a news event at 7 o'clock, which was right about here. Now you can see the market obviously did not punch through this level, that level, this level, and it was obvious by this point within a couple of minutes after the news event that we were probably going to take this out. You were forming more or less what's called a descending triangle or pennant type formation, which can be two things. If it's a continuation move, it should get support, bounce up, and you would get a move to the upside. That's a continuation move on a pennant. On the other hand, it could be a reversal pattern, which in this case you see it broke support right here. We called 770 as the entry. And actually broke there pretty nicely, took out this 760, and then down she went. And then remember we said watch this 720, 730 area? Well, the reason that we were saying that was look back here. And it's pretty easy in our pre-market assessment to come in and put these lines in. I mean, literally this takes just a couple of minutes. You come in here, you put a horizontal line here, you put a horizontal line here. And then what you want to do is every 20 to 30 minutes in the morning, you want to kind of reassess where your support and resistance levels are. See how we do that? And that's going to set up, more or less, that's going to kind of set up your trades. Okay? And you want to trade your eye. You want to sort of train your eye to look for these swings. It's not hard to do. It's really not hard to do. It's a pretty simple price action study. And anyway, so we get a quick short here. Boom, pop down. Get a nice little quick short. You got another little short set up here. Maybe you made a couple of ticks. Maybe you scratched it on this second one around 7:30. And then here was a beautiful textbook yellow bar probe trade right here. rolled over, took out 720, and then just like the rest of the equities, never looked back. I mean, it just took it out with a vengeance. Bounced a little bit here. You know, depending on where your stop was, this might have taken you out if you had your stop a little too tight to the dots. We always say that you want to give it a little bit of wiggle room right in here, and the reason for that is see how it comes and checks these little swing areas and then rolls over and gives you another 20, 30 ticks. And then more than likely on this bounce, you probably stopped out somewhere around I'll call it 650. So all in all, in summary, you had on YM here somewhere right after the news hour, you had 1, 2 scratch, 3 good short trades, all in the direction of the 12 range guidance dots here. Now, you may come back and some questions might be, well, Charles, why didn't you trade the upside when you got this little break here or that little break there? Weren't you looking for longs? Well, the way I like to trade the first 20, 30 minutes in the market, in order for me to want to get long in this market, is it would have to do something like this. I would be looking for something like this, and I think we were actually calling this in the room on some of these instruments, is it would have to come in, it would have to come up like this, pull back, it would have to come up, check this swing, get some kind of little retracement, just like Rich was talking about a minute ago on, I think it was EMD or one of the instruments. He was saying poke up, pull back, find support somewhere near a previous resistance level, and then punch through. If I saw that kind of price action, this would want me to get long. Okay, I'd be looking for a long trade here, and this would be a positive reaction to news. This would be the long trade right here, but it didn't do that, right? It went quite the opposite direction. It broke down, setting up the short trades. By the way, does everybody see that? It's really an important thing, no matter what instrument you're trading, is to train your eye to more or less look for these swing levels, support and resistance. Is it putting in higher lows, higher highs? Higher lows, higher highs. This is going to drive your thinking as far as trading goes. Okay? So that's YM. This is $5 a tick. Been talking with a lot of traders about risk management, and we'll get into more of that tonight. We got 2 webinars. 4 o'clock to 5 is free trial support webinar. That's for free trial people only. And then from 5 to 6 Pacific, we have our normal trading webinar for members. So 5 to 6 members, 4 to 5 o'clock Pacific, free trial people. And we'll send out links here in a little bit for all those. But any questions on YM here? It's a nice instrument, $5 a tick. Like I said, some days it's a little whippy and choppy. Other days it's pretty smooth. The support and resistance lines are pretty clean. You can see them pretty easily. You're not, with $5 a tick with a 12 or 15 tick stop, you're only risking like $60, $70 a trade. So you can afford to kind of learn how to, sort of learn the system without getting too beat up. And then if you nail a good trade, you can make a couple of $300-400. Chris, I think, is asking about, yeah, Don Tony. This was the follow-on. Let me drag another chart over here. I do have Nasdaq. Let's look at Nasdaq real quick here before we wrap up. Yeah, let's take a look here. Of course, it looks very similar to the YM chart. All these equity charts are going to look almost pretty much the same. Here's the pre-market action. We had a swing here, kind of around this 30 area, 40 area. We had a resistance area up here at 50. This is the pre-market. This would have been when the room opened. All the equities were kind of running up, right? Running up, running up, running up. 6:30 open to markets here. Punched up. Just hit this swing. By the way, does anybody know where this swing came from? 2350. Anybody trading Nasdaq? I didn't have to put this on the chart, by the way. Guess where it came from? Yesterday. There it is. See it? This is our pre-market assessment from yesterday, by the way. I just left these on the chart. Interesting how support becomes resistance here, huh? See this? This was a support area from yesterday morning. I didn't have to put that on there. It was already on there. Anyway, that's not a coincidence. That happens all the time, by the way. Anyway, so back over here, you had a swing level here at support. You had some resistance here. This is our pre-market assessment. You can see here we were not taking out this swing to the upside. In order for us to look for long trades, all the markets would have had to do something like this. Retrace back into support, find some higher level of support, and then look for some kind of probe breakout like such to the upside, getting us long. Now, just a quick word about the Dow futures. If you watch the Dow futures, they were up into the open at 137. Now, when you see the Dow futures and all the futures markets up that high into the open, they've been running up all night, right? You're going to have a couple of things are going to happen. For instance, this continuation trade. If the Dow was going to go up to 250 and have a monster up day, then out of this consolidation patch, you should have had a continuation move like such. Okay? If the bears were going to come in and take control, which they did, you're going to get some patch of consolidation around the open, which we did. The news wasn't all that great here at 7 o'clock, right? If you remember the news, wasn't that great. The housing numbers, I think they missed. I don't have all the detail here in front of me, but obviously the market reacted very negatively. Let me take this off of here. This is not what it did. It did not go up. And so just like the other pennant pattern, we were looking for a breakdown short, which set up here somewhere between 35 and 40. This circle was your chance to get short. And there's all manner of ways to enter short here, and we're not going to cover that in these recaps, but there's ways to enter short here where you could have gotten in, trailed your stop, and it took you out somewhere down around this 25 area. Now, you did have a consolidation patch here, real quick. You may have taken a short off this yellow bar Proby trade here, maybe not. This was close to a scratch trade, just like YM. Maybe you made a couple of ticks, not much here. And then, of course, we have the yellow bar Proby right around 738, 740, and boom, down she goes. This turned out actually for the equities to pretty much be across the board, EMD, Roosty, YM, and of course NASDAQ here, pretty much the trade of the morning right here. You had a nice short here, little scratch trade here, and then this was your monster moneymaker right there. Trading in, of course, in the direction of the 12 range guidance dots. Now, there was some question about what's going on with NASDAQ right now. Let's come over and look. By the way, before we do that, is there any question on our pre-market assessment and the trades that set up today? Any questions on that before we move on? Chris, I think, was asking.
On that long,
yeah, go ahead.
That long we called on Roosty, it just took out another resistance area, heading for 716.90 to 717.10.
Sweet.
So people are still in that trade. It's very, very good.
Well, if you want, when I'm done here, we can flip back. You can show it, and then we can shut it off. Now,
I can show it on the chart. I've already taken my profits.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Okay. So
Phone
Chris
was ringing. I had to take care of some support.
Oh yeah. No problem. So, Chris, to your question, Chris was saying, so what about this? I think he was looking to re-short here. So you actually did have a little short trade set up here, Chris, and that might have been what you were looking at. Here we came up to what we call the line in the sand, right here. Line in the sand is this 12 range guidance, which was keeping us short, right? We rolled over, technically speaking, in here we did get a little short trade. Didn't give you much, right? See how it broke down, took this out, and then your stop was sitting kind of right in here. So depending on your fill, this was probably a scratch. Maybe you made a couple of ticks, lost a couple of ticks, not much here. But what I want to show here is this. Notice how we came up and we checked this. And Chris, this is answering your question. Okay, this is answering your question. Notice what happened when you came right up in here. And let me blow this up. You came up here, and it was clear at this point. It was clear at this point. I was doing these charts, so I have to go back and kind of recreate this for you. But see this swing low here? Kind of right in this level, kind of down in here somewhere. And then you had this little swing you put in from the reshort that stopped out, kind of right in here. All right, at this point here, it was pretty clear that you were not heading down any further. Okay, if this, and by the way, I think the Russell and EMD, Gary, you're going to have to help refresh our mind on this. I don't think that even broke down at all. I mean, I think they came back, did a yellow probe, and they were actually heading up in here, weren't they?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I called that exact support level on that yellow probe. And
exactly.
It literally just went to the moon.
So
still going.
It is still going, yeah. So what we're trying to say here is this, Chris, specifically your question. This was a lower, a higher low. The other markets were strongly divergent. Okay, in other words, Russell and EMD and all the other markets were heading up. They weren't heading down at this point. And this was your telltale sign, if you took the short and scratched it, that you probably want to look to reverse and take the pop long when it takes guidance out. because these markets can't remain divergent forever. Okay, one is going to come back to the other. If you have three markets, equity markets moving in a given direction, say up, and you have a little bit of divergence on one, eventually it's going to turn around. Not every time, but most of the time. Can everybody see? Can you see that real quick? How you could have quickly figured out that you wanted to flip and take that long trade at the break or resistance there? You see that? And how this short was no longer valid because it didn't come and check and break the support here. Taking your line in the sand out, you could have had, a line trader sitting in here. You could have any means of entering here at this sort of 2303-ish break. And you had a little bit of time to do it. It started to break up here around 8:29. Didn't really start getting going until 8:30, 8:32. You had a couple of 3 minutes to really assess market entry here. Now, right now, as far as that long breakout trade is concerned, you'd be checking support and you'd have a stop probably sitting somewhere, right in here. Okay, everybody see that? Newman, can you show me that in real time? I always forget changing in real time. Newman, not certain what your question is there, and my apologies. We can spend more time in this in the webinars tonight. These morning sessions are not really intended to be any kind of like training or anything. This is just, we're just kind of pulling a couple of charts up and showing what the market did. And, we have these, this is recorded, it's like 10 minutes long, and we'll send a couple of screenshots out. Just trying to show what's set up this morning and, how you could have taken a couple of these trades here. So. All right, well, that's all I had, guys. Did you have anything else you wanted to show here? Gary, Rich,
No,
anybody?
I think we're good.
Okay.
We called that trade on Russell. It's still heading up. You can even watch 12 range or blue bars, green stealth. On that NASI, by the way, if anybody, with an astute eye looks there, when you had that low and you had the thrust up and you had the pullback, it never took out that low. So it was starting to kind of climb. That's why I called that red bar probie on NASI. And then when you made that little swing there at around under 23, that was not a bad entry right there.
Yeah, in fact, you know what, while you're saying that, Gary, let me drag this over real quick. This is your Roosty chart right here. And what Gary is saying is this, and let me highlight it this way. See the divergence between these two? See how at this point here, shortly after 8 o'clock, the Russell market had come up and checked the line, what we call the line in the sand. And this, I think Rich was actually calling this as it was happening. He says, okay, if this is a legitimate break, it should retrace into support, find support, and break to the upside. And I'm not sure, where'd you get filled in here, Gary? Remember? On this long trade? Somewhere around 09-ish, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know if Gary's audio's working.
No, it's here. I can call it exactly.
I don't know if you can remember where you got filled here, but I remember Rich. I remember this coming up. It was checking it. I didn't take this trade. I was doing some charts and things, but I remember it checked this, poked right through it, said, okay, it should hold a higher level of support, which it did right in here. And this is what we say all the time. You don't have to feel panicked if you're watching these trades and you're kind of watching the trades and they're setting up, and they punch through. This is what we talk about. It should hold a higher level of support, which it did. I think EMD did too here. And then notice the divergence. Over here, in fact, NASI was pulling back around 820, 825, setting up that little short scratch trade, right? Whereas around 825, you were just getting simply a little probe trade on Roosty right here. Just a little probe trade into support, boom, up she went. Now, I don't know where you stopped out of this trade, Gary, but it's still going, and it could, who knows, keep going up here to the 719 area. It's actually a nice follow-on trade long, which is surprising because after all this volatility early, you would expect that we would get, some chop here. It hasn't chopped at all. We're still getting some nice moves. Stephen asking about 6E, Rich?
Let's see, what's the question? Still a reshort. 6E still a reshort, absolutely. There's nothing wrong with it. You're welcome.
Okay, so if you were in this NASDAQ trade, you probably stopped out of it. See the divergence that you have here? See how the Russell is very strong? Hasn't even checked support at all. I mean, still hovering around this swing high up here. And NASI is actually, so you get divergence in these markets. They're not all going to follow each other. I mean, sometimes they're pretty close. Let's see what our friend YM is doing real quick here. Here's YM. See, now you haven't had much follow through on YM. See, it took all the way here till after 8:30. When you check this resistance level right here, finally took it out, had a little retracement. I mean, you would have hardly made any money at all on this trade. And then it did a little quick pop from, I don't know, 690 to 71. What's that, like 20 ticks? Something like that, 15, 20 ticks. Quick little pop, depending on where you get filled. So you got a huge divergence between these three markets. In summary, here's NASDAQ on the pop. Here's Roosty on the pop, which was very strong, clearly the strongest of the bunch. And then here's YM. Very little follow through. Very little follow through. NASDAQ's probably stopped out. Depending on your entry on YM, maybe you're still in the trade, maybe not. And Roosty isn't even touching stealth yet. All right, well, I think that's it, guys. I'm going to stop the recording.